Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. James here as ever for today's video all about what is an accounting study contract and how does it work. Now, I actually did an ACCA study contract and this video is applicable whether you're an ACCA student, ACA, CIMA, ATT, AAT, CPA, CTA, whichever professional body you are part of. The tips and tricks and insights that I'm going to go through in this video are really going to help you out and what I'd have liked to have known before I actually started my study contract all those years ago, should I say. If this is the first time you've actually visited my channel before, my name is James. I'm an ACCA qualified member from the UK, and on my channel I help out accounting students, professionals around the world, pass your examinations and share my insights from my career and experience. And as ever, I dedicate all my videos to my loyal subscribers out there, and if you've got any questions, it's very much subscriber-led, should we say. And today is no different because today's videos come from TikTok, where I get asked this all the time, and I'm getting better at the editing as ever. Well, I'll put the screenshot for you up here. I mean, strike the pose, it's all good. But asking on here, we had it from DJ, can't pronounce the rest, I'm afraid. Sorry, DJ. But what exactly is a study contract? Do they actually pay while you finish your remaining exams and they employ you? Well, DJ, you got the short and sweet video there. This is where we're going to go into a lot more detail, 3 key factors that you need to get written down, and all the aspects in this video will really help you out no matter what level you are. And if you've got any friends who are also accounting students, make sure you share it with them because it could be a massive help for them in actually securing that study contract that could really propel their career and even help them out with the insights on top of it as well. So just as a sort of nutshell to get us going, if you would like to actually subscribe to all my videos, they're all free. Make sure you hit the button below. And as we go through the video, if you've got any questions or comments, make sure you just leave a comment at the bottom. I answer them all, and it's great to hear what your actual thoughts of the video are. And if you find the insights fantastic, insightful, all the usual stuff, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up so more accounting students around the world can see this content. I'd really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much. But without any sort of further ado, make sure you've got a pen and paper at the ready. I'm going to walk and talk you through now all the key aspects that I can share with you that are going to help you out. So before we actually get into the sort of the nitty gritty of it, it's a case of, well, what is an actual study contract for an accounting student? Because that is the sort of thing overall that you may be there going, well, I don't actually know what it is, James. Well, first of all, it's a contract between yourself as the student of whichever professional body you may be and your employer, that you will study with them for a particular particular period of time and then also work there at the same time. The key thing here is this is not an employment contract, it's a separate contract. So you'll have a study contract and an employment contract. Employment contract when they actually pay you your wage for the month, and then the study contract where they'll actually have the breakdown of all the aspects of what you're actually entitled to from your studying and what the company will offer you. And this is where you can actually negotiate it at your interview as to what can be in there and understanding what the company has in their policy. So what I've done for you is I've broken it down into the following areas. So it's designed to say, well, how does it all work, how it can help you, and how it's going to impact you. Okay, so we're going to have 3 areas just to write down. So we've got the time, the details, and the finances. These are the key areas I'm just going to walk and talk you through as to saying, well, what should it be in your study contract that you could ask your employer? Now, if you would actually like me to do any more videos on this, because even just recording this now and talking to you, it's a case of, well, I'm thinking of other ideas as to say, well, would you like me to do a video on maybe where and how to secure a study contract? Because I'm sure by the end of this video, you'll be going, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So if you'd like that, or potentially the pros and cons of a study contract video, more than happy to just leave it in the comments below and I'll respond to it. Absolutely fantastic. So without any further ado, we'll get on to the actual first area, which is the time factor on here. Because study contracts, and exactly like the same one that I went on to do, was, well, 36 months. So the contract was for 3 years, and this is a time frame relevant for the actual experience you will need for the professional qualification. So with ACCA, you need 36 months of qualifying experience within an actual employer. That gets the tick box from ACCA that is proper experience to obtain the ACCA letters after your name. So within those 36 months, you'll be working for the company and studying at the same time. That's the key thing here. So you need to be aware to check in the contract for what is called the actual payback period of the contract. This is where the devil is always in the detail within contracts that you need to be aware of. Because what this means, next key thing to get written down is, this is usually 12 months after the 36 months. So you've got your 3 years when you're actually in your study contract, and then you've got 12 months afterwards, which is where you'd actually have to, what they call is like the payback period. So this is where it's all about stopping students from racking up large study costs on here and then just simply leaving the employer, okay? Because think from their perspective, if James, we're ploughing all this money into you and getting you to study as well, paying for your tuition, all the other aspects that we'll come on to later on in the video, we can't just have you go out the door straight away. It should be a win-win on both sides. So if you were to leave if you were to make a move from one employer to the other and you're actually studying and in a study contract, you would have to make the actual payment for the previous 12 months of study costs. Now, that can add up to significant amounts, where I've even heard that some students who have had face-to-face tuition and really good contracts involving studying, it can be in the thousands of pounds, which you are liable as an individual. So just to be clear, from my experience, and this is what you need to be looking at in your contract, is usually it's 36 months where you'll be working and studying, completing all your examinations, and then after that you'll have a 12-month payback period where you'll continue to work for them, and that is to cover the actual costs on top of it and also to stop you moving to another employer. Because if they've ploughed all that money into you, then you were to leave, they'll go, oh, we're thousands of pounds out of pocket and James has left. Well, that is not good for the business. So hence, this is where the study contract holds you liable. If you were to leave, you'd have to make those costs back. So say if you were 18 months into your contract, study contract on there, well, if you were to leave at that 18 months, you'd have to pay back the previous 12 months of costs. So just be aware of it. I've even heard from some employers that they do it for 2 years, which is even more significant. So make sure you go away after this video, go check your current contract, or if you're going for a job after this, make sure you have a look into it and discuss it at the interview as well, because that nicely leads us on to the second point on here, which are the finances. Okay, so we've looked at the time period, now we'll look at the finances. And this is all about the company will pay for what you have discussed at the interview, what you've agreed within the actual contract and within what the actual company offers out to their employees. So this will be put into the study contract and usually follows the company's policy as to, well, this is what you will get if you come and work for us, you come on a study contract, and this is what the norm of all the other trainees who are planning to be qualified in years to come actually go through. So this is another key aspect that you need to go and check your contract on the details before signing it. Because this is your leg to stand on, that you've gone through it, and if you're at the interview and they tell you one thing, and then you actually go to see the study contract and it says another, that is where you have to bring it up, because you say, look, this is what you told me and what we agreed verbally on there, okay? But then this isn't what is reciprocated in the contract. And that is so that you have a leg to stand on, in the same way that the employer has a leg to stand on when and if you were to sign that contract. The key reason why this is important is the cost can be significant, as we said, with time, and run into the thousands of pounds. And this can include anything from, well, it all accumulates together, such as the actual payment for tuition. So this can range in price if it's face-to-face or online or on demand. Other actual finances that, again, try to negotiate into your contract could be your ACCA annual membership on top of that. The actual payment of the examinations, which again run into the hundreds of pounds. What other students have also got from there is any travel associated for their studying. Maybe they need to go on the train or go to a different location. And I've also heard that some students get subsistence, and potentially if they have to stay overnight as well. So you can see now how all these costs can quite easily tally up. And as we talked about that 12-month payback period, if you have to make the costs and make the payment, if you were to move employer, then those costs in the previous 12 months that went before you left, oh my word, they can definitely add up. But the key thing here is making sure it's all transparent. You are fully aware of the finances of what the study contract has at the firm that you're at, and so that you can actually understand that if you were to leave, this is how much you have to pay. And also the other key thing is what you're entitled to. Because maybe when you're actually starting at a small firm, large firm, you might just go, oh, I don't want to put myself out there too much, or I don't want to cause any controversy. Look, if you've signed the study contract, that's what you're entitled to, then that is what you're entitled to. So make sure you stand up for yourself. It's always one of those things when you're new into a firm, and maybe there are other people there who have been there for a longer time as well. And what you don't want is to say that one employee is getting this and another employee is getting this. That can lead to sort of feuds and things within an organisation that you need to sort of get away from, because when you're working and studying at the same time, that is where it can really ramp up and it can add real stress to your actual life, other commitments that you actually have. Now, the third thing, which we've already alluded to, and the third and final point, are the actual details. And this is where the classic phrase of the devil is always in the detail, so be really, really careful. This is where you can have the verbal agreement that we talked about at the interview, and that is not binding. So it shouldn't be relied upon that if the managing director or the manager or the area manager, whoever it is, has told you at the interview that you're entitled to face-to-face tuition, we'll pay for this, we'll pay for that. Well, it's the key thing of what is in the study contract, what have they signed, what have you signed, and that is where the details both parties have to be aware of. The other thing that can actually be included in your study contract to make a note of, again to discuss with your employer on there, is something called study leave days. And this is where you actually go to classes between Monday to Friday instead of going to work. But the key thing here is, well, it's when you're going to go to those classes, because I've had study leave in the week, I've had weekend classes, I've had evening classes, I've had on-demand classes, so make sure you get it within your actual contract to understand it, along with any expenses that we talked about earlier, travel, subsistence, maybe it's accommodation as well. They all need to be verified, and so that when you put in the expense claim, you're not going to feel bad for it as well, because that's what I'm entitled to. That's what the contract says. Because it can run into the hundreds of pounds and you feel a bit guilty on it, but it's the study contract. That is the agreement for it. The other key thing from here is the trade-off, as to say, well, if we're getting potential study leave days, and this is why it's so important, do you need to use any annual leave up for the exam day or potential revision days as well? Because it could be the assumption that in the study contract you take the exam day as an annual leave day. Now, at my old place, it's a case of you got the exam day as a study leave day and you got the day off as well before as a study leave day, so you could focus in on it, which is very nice, very thoughtful. There are other places which you actually have to take the exam day off as annual leave, and you go, woof, bit harsh. But then there are others where they'll actually give you a full week off beforehand, I've heard about. So again, it's different companies have different policies. That's why it's so key that going away from this video, put it down in your action points to go and see about the details on there. The other key thing about details that you need to be aware of what would happen if you were to fail an exam. So this is where, would the employer pay for the resit fees, and then are you accountable to another team member to actually discuss it with them? Is it someone who you actually work with as well? Because I've also heard from some firms, if you actually fail an exam twice, I've heard it as low as, then they actually could potentially terminate your employment contract. Other firms I've heard it to be maybe 3-4 exam periods, but again, definitely check to see if you were to fail an exam more than once, what are the implications behind that. The other final thing is, if you're using some of the larger providers or an online provider, again, the channel is not associated with any providers on here, so this is not biased in any way, you get my honest opinion on it. Some offer an actual pass guarantee, okay, and some don't on there. So what that means is, if you complete all their tuition, all their actual study and past paper questions that you submit to them, so you complete it all at a certain level, Well, even if you were to fail the exam, you would get all that tuition and all those questions again for free. But you have to meet that pass guarantee. That is the key thing there. But again, more devil in the detail, who is held accountable at your work, and having that good working relationship with your employer, because it should be a win-win that they support you and then you progress to help them develop over time. When you're studying and working, it is really, really tough. It can be a real strain, especially with stresses, late nights, sleepless nights as well. So that's why, hence, I set up the channel. So if you would like access to all my free videos, make sure you subscribe at the bottom. I upload weekly on there, so make the most of the free material on there. Well, that really concludes us there for the final part on the details. So plenty to consider, and a lot what I'd have liked to have known before I actually started my studying journey to become an actual qualified accountant. So there are plenty more details on here actually about how to secure a study contract, as we talked about at the start. What are the pros and cons, because we've talked about expenses, we've talked about the logistics with the employer. So if you'd like me to do a video on the pros and cons of a study contract video, feel free to leave it in the comments below. More than happy to. Just need to know that you want to on there. I mean, how to secure a study contract, pros and cons about it. And then we'll get it on the channel and you can make the most of it. But as ever, I mean, let me know what you think of the video in the comments below. If you've got any other questions, feel free to just ping us a message on there. Also, if you have found the video helpful, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up and like. I really, really appreciate it. Along with subscribing so you get access to all of the free materials on there. And if you actually work in a current employer, or if you've got friends who are ACCA students, make sure you send this to them, because you know the insights that I've talked about already and the future videos that I'm going to put out are definitely going to help them as well to actually progress in their career. So, as I said, well, we've got plenty more free ACCA videos, accounting resources on the channel. Make the most of them, that's the key thing. What I'd finally like to say is I'd just like to wish you all the best on your accounting journey, no matter which provider you are using, or accounting body, shall I say. And I hope the new videos from my experience can be the difference in you passing your next exam. What I've done for you as a final treat in the video is I've left a couple of videos at the end here. If you click one of them, they are definitely going to help you pass your next exam. Again, all from my experience and my insights. But as ever, as always on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers.